Hey. Hey.
What's that?
As Clemma said, I like her. Cat's little pushing head and other reasons why I make an autobiography and essays. And then I want this. I have to take this home. I'm sorry. I need this.
Oh.
I need it. I have to get this. And thanks for buying it for my day. That is huge. Has it got illustrations as well? Wow. It's actually pretty cool. I like it.
Don't know how fitting the illustrations are to the story though.
That's a book I do want to challenge myself with this year. Oh my god, look, it's this one. I want this. I can't grab it. How much is it? Grab it. This is what I want. Oh my god. That would be incredible. Oh my god. And to devour that all this year, that would be incredible. I keep saying incredible. I'm really excited. So nice. I don't think you'll be able to see that very well, but we're heading home now. Back to life. We'll probably just walk through here. So I'm home. It's 10 o'clock at night. I am quite cold, so I'm going to have some tea. I'm just waiting for my husband to get home. And then I think that's it. We're just going to call it a night. We're just going to chill out and do whatever. I don't know if we're going to watch a film, or I might try and see if I can get him in on some anime. Oh, he's here. So I'm just going to call it a night. I'm very cold, so I'm going to warm up with some tea. But yeah, so I ended up getting Unfinished Tales. I don't think I have that one. No, I don't. Which looks like this. It's a very, very chunky book. I like this edition. This edition is what I want. And I want to get more editions like this one and the one that I have, which is The Fall of Numenor, which you guys saw 3 videos back, I want to say. Maybe more. But I won't be cracking this one open anytime soon. It probably won't be for at least another couple of months. Because I am in the middle of trying to compile a list of 12 books for 2023. And then once I figured out which books I want to be the most important books, so 1 book a month, I will then present that to you, either in this vlog, or if you don't see it in this vlog, at some point it will be filmed, and then you'll probably see it in the next vlog. So this will be on that list. The other book that I did want, Murakami's Vocation as Novelist, or Novelist as Vocation, which is one of his newest books that came out last year. So it's, I think it's mostly or partly memoir and self-help, or like memoir and his me leading by example, like advice book. So I've been dying to get my hands on that book since I knew it was coming out last year, but I didn't get it today. I ended up getting this, as you saw. So at some point I will get that book, and then who knows. I don't know if I'll get it on that list of 12, but I'm really excited about putting that list together because it will actually give me something to work towards. So I want to be able to do that, and then I can sit and actually discuss the books that I have finished on that list at least once a month. That's the idea. I want to read them slowly enough that I cover them over the course of 28 to 30 days. So this will be on that list at some point. I just don't know where yet. But this morning, I did finish the first book, the Toronto Book of the Dead. So this is my January pick of the 12 books of 2023. And I loved it. I spent, I want to say maybe 2 hours this morning reading the last 10 or so chapters, because at that point the chapters were actually quite short. And again, the text is quite large, but I absolutely loved this book. It was so full of information. I've really managed to garner great interest in a lot of the people that were mentioned in this, from the Simcoes, the Family Compact, the Wendat people and their history. So that's something that I really want to delve into. Like the various singers and songwriters and rock and rollers, and like who at some point ended up in Toronto for artistic reasons or because they had to run away. There was like a really great selection of prominent figures within the world of the military and medicine who were Black people, who were like pioneers in their field, and they would have been completely ostracized or banned or completely ignored and treated absolutely terribly if they were over the border. But here they seem to be able to make something of themselves and get their feet in the pages of history, and I really like that. So I wanted to go off and do a bit of research, which I've already started doing just for my own personal knowledge and development. But I absolutely love this book. So if you're new to Toronto or you want to get into more of Toronto's history, this is definitely one of the books that I would highly recommend. It's also one of the only books I've read that goes into a lot more detail in a much more approachable and really kind of respectful, but also intellectual, easy, approachable, and sometimes funny way. And it's just really nice. It was just really great to sort of see the streets kind of opening up to me and recognizing places that Adam Bunch would mention in here that certain people would go to. And I'd be like, oh, I've been there, or oh, I know where that is on a map. I've not been there yet. So yeah, it was just really interesting. I was actually really pleased and very surprised by how good this book is. So February is the month of love because it's also my wedding anniversary as well as Valentine's. So I'm going to be focusing on the Toronto Book of Love for February, which I'm dying to get my hands on already. And I still have a few more weeks to go, which sucks. But yeah, I love this. I thought it was great. So Toronto Book of the Dead by Anna Bunch. Highly recommend. God, I'm so sad. Okay. Anyway, I'm really tired. I'm really thirsty. I'm going to have some tea and then try and warm up and then get all this off my face. So, yeah, it was a great day. I liked it. Hey. Hey. But I wanted to focus on 12 particular books, one book per month, and this is going to be them. Bear in mind, there are only 10 here at the moment. One book, which is Ulysses by James Joyce, I don't actually have a copy of. So at some point, I will need to get a copy before that month comes up and I get around to starting that particular book. And another book, I want it to be a non-fiction that focuses on autism. So I want to just learn about it for my own general knowledge and understanding, because it's interesting to learn about. There's always new research being done and always new research coming out. So it's just nice to sort of see what's already available out there and also to check and see if there's anything brand new. So 1 month this year, I don't know when, perhaps if there is like a neurodivergency month or an autism awareness month, I want to find out when that is and then maybe dedicate reading more about autism during that month. So I'll figure it out. As time goes by, I'll figure out my list properly and assign books accordingly. But for now, I finished one book already and I'm about to go into the month of love, which will be February, and I'm going to be focusing on the next book. So let me go through those. So that's those two books for the moment, Ulysses by James Joyce and a book of some kind to do with autism. And then now I'll get on to the rest in no particular order. As already mentioned, for the month of January, I ended up picking this one, which is The Toronto Book of the Dead by Adam Bunch, published by Dundurn Press. I've already briefly mentioned why I got this one, and it's the same with the February book, but that was my January pick. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was absolutely a fantastic read. And if there's any more books like it, just in general, I want to try and see if I can get my hands on them. So that was my January read. For February, it is The Toronto Book of Love, also by Adam Bunch. It's pretty much in the title what this book's going to be about. Historical recounts, events and stories around the idea of love, romance, dating throughout history in this grand city of Toronto. Now we're going to go into the whole, not in any particular order. One of the books that I want to focus on is James Baldwin's Go Tell It on the Mountain, which is this edition right here. I've never really got into James Baldwin before. I read Giovanni's Room, and that was it. And I thought it was really beautiful. So I want to read more of his stuff. He's a very prominent writer that I've always wanted to read, and I just never got around to it. So that's a big part of the reason why a lot of the authors in this list are so important to me. They're authors, or at least their books are works that I've always wanted to delve into and I just never got around to it. And now I do. That's going to be my goal for this year. So James Baldwin, Go Tell It on the Mountain. Salman Rushdie's The Satanic Verses. I like the look of this edition. Again, it's also a novel that I've never read before, but there's so much hubbub about it and around it. And I know it's also a banned book, so it's a book that I'm going to read to try and see if I can figure out why it is that it's banned, or at least try and get more of a first-hand experience with something that is so culturally significant in our time. I want to know why. So, The Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie. One of the first classical rereads that I'm going to be reading is going to be The Hobbit by JRR Tolkien. I wanted to read this back in 2021, and I started reading the very first few pages again, which was good, but I just never got around to finishing it. So this year I'm going to be rereading it completely, like in full, all over again. But then, I don't know, I do want to read other Tolkien books. And then Hobbit Day is also celebrated in September. So basically I have until September before I can decide exactly which book it is that I either want to reread or I want to read for the first time by Tolkien. So at the moment, it's just The Hobbit that's on the list. The next book is Sexual Personae by Camille Paglia. She is someone who I have followed for a number of years now, and Sexual Personae is something that I skimmed, used as research when I was back at university, and I really liked her works. I've read many of her other books before. I really love Break, Blow, Burn, which is where she breaks down several religious, spiritual, homoerotic poems and has written like a analysis and essay for each one and given her own critical theory upon each one. And it's a book that I really love. So I thought I would reread Sexual Personae. Again, this is also a book that I wanted to reread last year for 2022. And again, I just never got around to it. So this is the year that I'm going to make sure that I make time to do so. The next book is Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. This book is one that I have had for a while. And to be quite honest, I know it's going to be an incredibly dense book. This and James Joyce's Ulysses are two books that, from what I understand, massively influenced David Foster Wallace to write Infinite Jest. I love Infinite Jest. I've read it 2.5 times, and I basically just want to go back to the root, I guess, to try and figure out, both with Ulysses and with Gravity's Rainbow, what it is about maximalist literature that has really spurred so many writers on. And these are two books that I'm dying to get my teeth into. And for whatever reason, I've just been too anxious and too nervous to try doing so. So again, this year is the year that I'm going to really set that goal. And I really want to start and finish both this and James Joyce's Ulysses. So that's Gravity's Rainbow for you. The next classical reread is Dracula. I like this edition. I started reading this edition when I first got it back in 2020 or 2019. I've got other editions of Dracula, and Dracula or Frankenstein are one of the two classics that I like to reread around Halloween. But because of the Immortal Universe or Immortal Studios, I'm not quite sure what they're called at the moment, who are currently producing and making adaptations of Anne Rice's works, it kind of got me back into that whole vampire vibe again, because I just love vampires. They're my favorite literary horror monsters. So I'm going to be rereading Dracula as per usual at some point later on in the year. And so therefore I had to include it on the list. This is a book I've read so many times. It's one of my absolute favorites. I'll probably just finish it within like days. Another classical reread is the Iliad, except this time this is an edition that's been edited by Caroline Alexander. This edition I've never read before. I wish I'd kind of waited a little bit, because I got the Odyssey edited by, now I forget her name, Emily Wilson. And I just found out that she's coming out with her own edited version of the Iliad later on this year, I think in September. So I'm kind of beating myself up a little bit, because I really, really want to check out her edition. But I've also heard many great things about Caroline Alexander. So I got this one last year, I want to say, or possibly the year before, and I never got around to reading it. But I love reading the Iliad every so often. and I think we have 2 copies of the Odyssey. So I just love the Greek tales, the Greek stories, Greek myths, legends, the Greek plays. I love them. So I had to include this in my 12 books for this year. And then the very last book is another Tolkien, Unfinished Tales, which you saw me pick up earlier. I'm going to be reading this for the first time all the way through in full at some point this year. I don't know when. I was thinking maybe I would set it up for March. So I don't know how I feel. If I start itching for it, then I'll probably start it in time for March and then kind of go from there, but I'm not entirely sure. As I said, I got really bogged down with the idea of trying to associate and assign books for certain months, because I know that once I start getting an itch for a particular book, that usually comes halfway when I'm reading through another book, like halfway through another book. So I don't know. I think I'm just going to take each month as they come and then just kind of go with the flow that way. I'm not going to be too strict, because obviously some of these books are absolutely gigantic. Like, this one is huge in comparison to, say, The Hobbit, if I keep it. Like, there's quite a big discrepancy between the two. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of be a bit more relaxed when it comes to the end of each month. I'm not going to force myself to read a chunky book or a really dense book too quickly. I'm going to take my time, but as long as I start at the beginning of the month, I'm good. It means I get to stay on track. And then I can really devour and digest the books that I'm actually reading at that time. So hopefully that'll be okay. We'll see. I'll list the books down below. But yeah, I don't know. If you have any suggestions, I'll just read other books in general. But otherwise, I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. It took me a while to put this list together, like a good 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what I end up discovering as the year goes by and how well I can stick to a goal. Yeah. So nice when you're having a day off in the snow. It's not a problem. When you have to work in it and shovel it and all that sort of stuff, that's something else. But we are heading home now, just to relax, have some tea, have dinner, and I think just call it a night again. So yeah, bye.